Now, the Rangers might not be winning it all this year. I don't care how bad it gets. There's no way they're trading deGrom.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers, the first and best daily Rangers podcast. I'm Bryce Paddock, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 12 seasons, including all 7 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Paddock. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, on today's show, I'm talking about why the Rangers are not going to trade Jacob deGrom. A wild day, a not great day for Jack Leiter, Kumar Rocker's first start back in the minors, and a little bit of trouble at first base and some trouble with Wyatt Langford's bat. Before we get into all of that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Now, I've seen it floated a couple of different places here. I know the thought has occurred to most Rangers fans as this Rangers team kind of scuffles to mediocrity. Another frustrating loss last night, a 2-run game after a 16-run outburst, which felt very predictable, even against a mediocre pitcher like David Festa. The Rangers just were not able to capitalize on a couple of different scoring opportunities, and a rough day for Jack Leiter made it another frustrating loss for the Rangers. They are now 5.5 games out of first place in the AL West, and they're kind of hanging on by a thread to their playoff hopes. Not by any means dead, but it's kind of feeling like this is just who this team is at this point. We did get some news on the injury front about Nathan Eovaldi. He's going to throw a bullpen this weekend. I thought that he was going to be activated off the IL this weekend. That is not going to be the case. So his return is delayed yet again. The thought was, he wouldn't miss any time. Then, of course, it's another Rangers injury. So it's going to take longer than expected. Cody Bradford is just working on building up. He apparently is building back up to a starter's workload. They are saying around July 4th, he should be built up to about 5 innings, which with this team and how all of their injuries have been, longer than expected, I would say maybe by the All-Star break, he'll be built up to 5 innings. But Jake deGrom, still healthy, still on the mound, still absolutely dealing this year. He'll start tomorrow's game. He's got a 2.12 ERA in 13 starts, 76 in the third inning, 74 strikeouts. That's, half of what the ideal final total would be for him. He hasn't had to skip a single start. He has been a little bit limited at times in his pitch count, could have gone deeper into games had he been, fully healthy, but he's 36 years old and the Rangers don't really need to test him. Is it because they're putting him on the trading block if they're out of it this year? No, absolutely not. Jacob deGrom is not tradable, not because he doesn't have value, but because it is just such a precarious and specific situation. Jacob deGrom is one of the best pitchers on the planet. And when you have a Jacob deGrom, you have to keep him, especially when you are trying to be a contender. The Rangers have him for at least 2 more, possibly 3 more seasons. He is owed $75 million in the next couple of years, those 2 years combined. He's making $40 million this year. So the price tag alone is a just flat out no for some teams. There are some teams that I'm not going to say can't, because all of the teams in Major League Baseball can afford to pay someone $40 million, even those allegedly poor teams, but their owners aren't going to. And also those teams with those tiny payrolls usually aren't in the contention cycle to where they are wanting to bring in one of the baddest men on the planet. The reason you sign those guys is because you pitch the pitchers on the idea of, hey, you're going to get to contend. You're going to get a chance to win a World Series, or in deGrom and now Nathan Eovaldi's case, a second World Series with this team while you're here. And if you trade them away, your future pitches to free agents are less effective of like, hey, come pitch for us. Maybe we'll end up dealing you on later on. This is where Jacob deGrom wants to be. This is who the Rangers want on their team. And finding a Jacob deGrom elsewhere, there's only one of him. Aces, top line, one of the best pitchers on the planet. They are incredibly difficult to come by. And yes, the Rangers may not even make the postseason this year. They might not finish above 500 this year. I think eventually they will get it into gear, possibly. And you've got to give yourself every opportunity, which Chris Young is going to do. But when you have a guy like this in your contention cycle, trading him is just not an option. There's number one, the price tag, which, just eliminates certain teams, but there's also the prospect haul that it would take. Now, the prospect haul wouldn't be as generous as it would be for trading for a pitcher like Paul Skeens, who not only has more years under contract, he's a little bit younger, a little bit less proven, but he's also cheaper. Just with what you can do with a baseball team with your payroll, if you have a pitcher that is like Skeens is pre-arbitration, so he's making $800,000 or so this year as opposed to $40 million. So that drives the price up, or drives the price down for Jacob deGrom, and would drive it up for Paul Skeens. There's also the injury history, which is a factor for sure. That's why the Rangers were the only team that were willing to go $185 million for Jacob deGrom. He was undoubtedly the best pitcher on the planet when the Rangers signed him, but there were those concerns, and those concerns ended up coming to fruition. I think a lot of that, concern was, oh, will he, won't he have a second Tommy John surgery? And I think that he probably should have had the second Tommy John surgery, would have had the second Tommy John surgery earlier had he not been, at the peak of his powers and hitting free agency and primed to sign a potentially $200 million deal if all of the vesting options vest. He's got a $37 million mutual option in 2028 when he is 40. But I don't think that is going to end up coming to pass. There are certain innings qualifiers that he must hit, or he might have to win a Cy Young, something like that. There are a couple of different, iterations of what that fifth year of the deal or sixth year of the deal ends up looking like. So then you have the prospect capital. It's going to still cost a very pretty penny, at least one, probably two top 100 prospects. There's not all that many teams that have that. There's not all that many teams that have the financial payroll plus the prospect capital. I mean, let alone just adding a $40 million pitcher for the next couple of years. I guess he's averaging $38-ish million over this year, the course of this year, next year, and the year after that. It's $38 million next year, $37 million the year after that. So just adding that alone, you have certain teams that would be able to sustain that, like the New York Yankees. The Blue Jays have a massive financial market to pay players. They have paid a lot of players a lot of money, and they're trying to contend right now. The Boston Red Sox are a team that would make sense in a hypothetical. Their starting pitching rotation is not good right now. They have Garrett Crochet and a bunch of pitchers who are not doing particularly well. They also have prospect capital, but the Red Sox have been a little stingy when it comes to dipping far into that luxury tax with their owner, John Henry. And we saw the Mookie Betts scenario play itself out. And then you have the New York Mets, who, I don't know if you want to go back to the Mets. I don't know if the Mets would want to go back to him. Their rotation is already really darn good. They don't have an elite farm system, but maybe they could find a way to cobble something together with some of their young major league players. The Phillies have kind of the financial means to go about doing that, but they've already got a pretty solid rotation. I'm not sure they would do that. The Cubs are one that is interesting. They don't have as much depth on the farm after the Kyle Tucker trade and some of the other trades that they've made. They do definitely have the financial wherewithal to, make a move like that. They have the means to sign a Kyle Tucker, but their ownership also has been a little bit on the cheaper side. Then you have, the Giants have a whole lot of money to spend and haven't really done that so far right now. The Giants have all that money. They've been able to get a couple of star players, but again, they don't really have the prospect capital to pull off a package like that. Plus, the Rangers want to contend next year, and they want to contend the year after that. Those 2 years where they will have Jacob deGrom under contract and hopefully healthy, maybe even healthier without some of the limits that he's had this year. Maybe those limits will still exist, but the Rangers will still want to contend, and whatever they get back in prospect capital won't be worth what they would have in Jacob deGrom in 2025 and in 2026, assuming lockout doesn't, or 2026 and 2027, assuming lockout doesn't impact all of that. So, in summation, basically, if the Raiders were to find a partner, the only ones that make any licks of sense are the Dodgers and the Red Sox. And even then, it doesn't really make enough sense for it to be worth it for the Rangers, plus just the optics of trading a guy like Jacob deGrom when he's won a World Series with Texas and he wants to be a part of the next one. Maybe that could be in 25, probably unlikely. But if he's not here in 2026, then I'm not sure the Rangers are getting one then, or maybe ever in the next 5 years. Coming up, we're going to talk a little bit about last night's game. Jack Leiter's struggles, a great day against the Rangers for Byron Buxton, and the Rangers signing Craig Kimbrel. All that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to bet smart and win big. Now, looking at the awards races for Major League Baseball right now, we're talking a lot about Jake deGrom. Right now, he has the fourth best odds to win the American League Cy Young. Tarek Skubal at minus 210. Hunter Brown of the Astros at plus 850, tied with Max Fried. And Garrett Crochet and Jake deGrom tied at plus 1200 for the fourth best odds there. Behind them, Chris Bubich. Other than that, Nathan Eovaldi down there at plus 5,000. He's tied with Brian Wu, Carlos Rodon as well. Tyler Mahle down there at plus 13,000. That's, I think, a little bit low given what he's done, but all kinds of different great odds on FanDuel. If you're new to FanDuel, now's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Shout out to the Everydayers being Locked On Rangers, your first listen every single day. On tomorrow's show, I'll be back and talking about this final game of the series against the Twins. Hopefully another gem from Patrick Corbin. Hopefully another burst out performance by this offense. Either way, I will be back tomorrow talking about whatever happens in this game. But this was a rough game last night for Jack Leiter. Just 4 innings for him. ERA ballooned up to 3.88, a homer, a massive, massive homer. 4 walks, though, and 5 hits in 4 innings. The fact that he only gave up 4 runs, and a couple of those were, well, at least one of those. I think it was actually just the 1 run. Outside of the 3-run homer, just the 1 run was given up by the bullpen who came in. And Jacob Latz, after a phenomenal bullpen start for him on Sunday, comes in 3 days later after throwing 60 pitches and exiting that game with a little bit of a cut on his thumb. He throws 25 pitches and gives up 3 hits and a couple of earned runs. Didn't look all that great. And from there, the Rangers offense just could not get much going. Just a tough day for Leiter, who let the lead runner reach every single inning. Those 4 walks were incredibly frustrating. And, well, it was just a heck of a day for Byron Buxton. One of the most impressive home runs I have ever seen. And immediately after a game-changing defensive play, Marcus Semien hitting a ball with runners on first and second, probably would have been a 2-run double had Byron Buxton not been able to make a diving grab. The Rangers would have gone up 4-0 at that point. And, well, the game might have gone very, very differently. Alas, it didn't, because at the bottom of that 3rd inning, after what should have been going up 0-2 on Brooks Lee, a slider right down the middle, a changeup that caught the zone but was not called a strike, Leiter leaves a 1-1 fastball catching belt high way too much of the plate. Brooks Lee doubles it up, and then a really frustrating at bat to Christian Vasquez, which resulted in a walk, which made the home run that Byron Buxton hit to the absolute moon, a 3-run shot as opposed to a 2-run shot. Misses with ball 1, 3 straight sliders, gets the call on pitch number 2, top of the zone on the corner. Pitch number 3 is touching the zone. If for ABS, it might have been a 1-2 count there, then throws a forcing fastball down the middle of the plate, but at the bottom of the zone, that's fouled off. Pitch number 5, another slider that is just a perfect pitch, a perfect pitch. That and pitch number 3, both perfect pitches. One of them probably should have been called a strike, maybe if you're had a more generous zone, but just truly incredible takes by Christian Vasquez, who not exactly a powerhouse hitter, the number 9 hitter, who you should go at because you do not want an extra runner on base for Byron Buxton, who maybe should have been called out on a check swing, not check swing on a changeup in the dirt, a pitch that Leiter was a little bit too much in love with for so far this season for how inconsistent at least it is. At times it looks amazing, but he doesn't quite have a feel for it just yet. Didn't really have a great feel for the curveball at times in this one, and missed middle a couple too many times, honestly. And then a slider that just hung up there and was absolutely demolished 479 feet to dead center field. The camera on the Rangers broadcast just didn't even catch it. It didn't zoom out enough to catch where that thing landed. 111.6 miles an hour off the bat. Byron Buxton is one of the funnest players in baseball. Baseball is better when he's healthy, but it's more fun for Rangers fans when he's doing those incredible things against not the Texas Rangers. An okay day for the Rangers offense, but again, another day where the Rangers could not hit with runners scoring position. They went 9 for 21 the day before, and then 1 for 9 on this day, despite getting doubles from Jonah Heim, from Josh Smith, from Evan Carter as well, and a homer from Marcus Semien, his 7th of the season. He remains incredibly hot, and he's got his OPS feels like doubled in the last 2 weeks. He has been the hottest hitter in baseball for the last 2 weeks, and the Rangers have absolutely needed every single bit of it from him. But the bullpen was fine, not great in this one, but they are possibly eventually getting some more help. But right now, it is just the AAA bullpen that is getting help because the Rangers have signed Craig Kimbrel to a minor league deal. He will head to AAA Round Rock. He is a multi-time All-Star, a former Rookie of the Year, a 9-time All-Star, a Rolaids reliever of the year, a Hoffman reliever of the year, a Rivera reliever of the year. He has done it in both leagues. And man, at his peak, it's easy to forget how incredibly good he was at his peak with the Atlanta Braves from 2010 to 2014. He was just unhittable at a season where he pitched his first year in the big leagues. He pitched 20 and 2/3 innings. He had a .44 ERA in Atlanta for his career. He was just incredible. And this year, he came back after a really rough past couple of years. In Philadelphia in 2023, it wasn't great. The year before in LA, it was fine. He was really good at times with the Cubs in 2021, but then when he was traded to the White Sox, he was terrible that year. And then with Baltimore last year, he was just awful. He was walking the entire world. He was not getting chases. He was getting swings and misses. He was getting strikeouts, but the ERA was horrible. It was at 5.33. This year, he signs a minor league deal with the Braves to come back and try the comeback attempt with the Braves. Pitches three outings in Columbus in their AA affiliate. Then he starts to pitch in AAA Gwinnett, which is I believe, suburb of Atlanta, or at least in the Georgia greater area around Atlanta. Pitched 14 and 2/3 innings there and had a lot of walk problems, but still struck guys out. Had a 2.45 ERA. Gets called up for one day. The Braves make a big deal about it. Hey, Craig Kimbrel's back. Craig Kimbrel's back. The bullpen that has had, you think the Rangers bullpen was bad last year, even in 2023. You blow an 8-run lead in one inning. That is something I don't think the Rangers bullpen even did at its worst. But they called up Craig Kimbrel for one whole day. One whole day, one scoreless inning, one scoreless outing, the strikeout, a walk, and a hit. And then they DFA'd him after making a big deal of, hey, Craig Kimbrel's back. I don't really understand what the point was there. Craig Kimbrel is not throwing particularly hard this year. He's averaging around 91.6 with the fastball. At least he was in that one outing, still throwing the sweeper and the curveball. And I think still doing the arms thing that he does. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see me making a fool of myself trying to replicate it. But I don't think this is going to be a guy who plays a major role in the Rangers pen. But hey, taking a flyer on him, he's getting some outs, and well, with how much the Rangers are having to use this pen, especially after rough days like that from Jack Leiter, it makes sense. The Rangers, at least, seeing what Craig Kimbrel has in the tank. It's a little weird that the Braves just DFA'd him after one day, but hey, interesting move, and maybe it'll end up paying some dividends. Coming up, we're going to talk a little bit about the Rangers defense. For the most part, it's been pretty great, but there's been one position particularly that has been a bit tricky. It's first base. Plus, we'll talk about Kumar Rocker's first start back in the minor leagues and why I'm both encouraged and discouraged. All that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by Gametime. You ever decided to get at the last minute you need to head to the ballpark with friends and family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize, oh, I need to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without all that stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes it possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch. And they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Gametime is the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, making it easy to browse the app for an exciting MLB game. The Rangers are coming back, and, hopefully they're going to win some of these games against the White Sox. You can get tickets through Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LSCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Shout out to the Bears speaking Locked On Rangers, your first listen every single day after every single game. Jeff Biggs is coming to you with the Locked On Rangers postcast live in your Locked On Rangers podcast feeds and on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast live reaction to all 162. Now, the Rangers have had some issues with first base lately, and specifically with Josh Smith. A couple of misplays, including one very, very big misplay in Tampa Bay, where Josh Smith did not cover first when he should have. And last night there was a play that was hit to where the second baseman normally would be, but Josh Smith was holding the runner on at first base, so he was a little bit closer to the bag. And that hole on the right side of the infield was pretty big because Marcus Semien was playing right next to second base. And it seemed like Josh Smith didn't know where Marcus Semien was because he started going after this ball, a weakly hit grounder to the right side of the infield, and then he just stopped as if to say, oh, I think my second baseman has got me covered. Then he looks back at the ball and sees Marcus Semien miles away from it because that's where he was set up. And as good of a defender as Marcus Semien is at second base, even he couldn't get to that ball, and it just ended up leading to an extended inning where the Twins would score a couple more runs, and it felt a little bit like those runs were maybe on Josh Smith, but also he made a great play earlier where he got the runner at home plate on a play that, maybe Jake Berger wouldn't do. It's interesting because the last couple of games, really that whole weekend series against the Nationals and a lot of this series against the Twins, Josh Smith has been playing first base, not his primary position. He's done an okay job for the most part, but it's the seventh position that he's played so far this year. He's played every single position in the infield and the outfield. He hasn't played catcher. He hasn't pitched just yet. But everywhere else he's playing, and Jake Berger has been DHing. Now, Bochy said part of this was because Berger isn't affected as much by DHing. His offense isn't affected as much by DHing. Some players, their bats really slump when they're not playing the field. It's just a different rhythm and routine, and Berger is one of the players who's used to it. But overall, Berger's played a lot more games at first base than Josh Smith. And that's not to denigrate what Josh Smith has done. Josh Smith is an excellent defender, should be a Gold Glover at the utility position. He was a Silver Slugger at the utility position last year. But defensively, it takes some reps, some getting used to playing first base to know when you need to go for a ball, when you need to let your second baseman get it, when you need to cover first base, when your pitcher is going to be covering first base so you can go for it. It's a lot of different things that it just takes time. It takes time to get those instincts. And Jake Berger has played a lot of first base, and Josh Smith has played a grand total of 11 games at first base. 11. That's tough to learn on the fly, especially for a contending team. It is a tough position. You might remember the movie Moneyball, where Wash tells him it's incredibly hard. Jake Berger has played 125 games at first base in the major leagues and 132 games in his career at the major at first base. He's played the vast majority of his career at first base. He played a lot of games at third base, coming up through the minors because, positional versatility, but still played, quite a few games at first base coming up through the minors. He's been playing it for years. He has just a little bit better instincts. It's not like he's been a bad defender at first base. He's been better than I expected. And I think that part of that is so that Josh Smith, who plays literally 7 different positions, everywhere besides pitcher and catcher, if you put him at DH and you want to move him and make a defensive substitution late in the game, and he's hitting because he's one of the Rangers' best hitters and he needs to be in this lineup, then you burn your DH and it makes things a little bit more complicated. I think that we'll see a little bit less of Josh Smith at first base moving forward. I think it's just time to let the guy who plays first base play first base. It's not a knock on Smith. He's got better range. He's got the range of a shortstop, the first step of a shortstop. That's really valuable to have a bunch of guys out there in the infield that can all get to a lot of different balls. But just those instincts at first base, it's just a different position. And I think the Rangers might be better served defensively with a guy who just has more reps at the position, even if he's got a little bit less range. Just having that guy who has those instincts, who has that institutional knowledge of playing that position time and time and time again, just might be a better use of the Rangers' defensive resources, if you will. Now, Wyatt Langford has been struggling quite a bit this month and a half. Really, it's been a rough, basically 6-week stretch. I think that part of the Donnie Ecker firing may be weighing on him. I think Donnie Ecker was definitely a guy who got Wyatt Langford, and Wyatt Langford learned a lot from him. In the month of March and April combined, he played 21 games and he was the Rangers' best hitter. He was incredible. 6 homers, a .299 batting average, a .972 OPS. By the month of May, he really took a dip off. Still 5 home runs, but he hit 189. He had a .275 on base, 100 points lower. The slugging percentage was nearly 250 points lower. He was slugging near 600 in April and March, and then he slugged, below 350 in May. And in June, he's been somehow even worse, a .216 on base percentage, slugging under 300, a .510 OPS with 12 strikeouts and 37 plate appearances. That's nearly a third of the time Wyatt Langford is striking out. He took a day off. The Rangers gave him a day off on Sunday just to give him 2 straight days off. Right now, he's got a strikeout rate more than 5% higher than what he was doing last year. And a lot of it has been on the off-speed stuff. He has been truly awful against off-speed stuff. That's changeups and split finger pitches. He has been really bad against those. In 26 plate appearances, he does not have a hit, and he struck out 15 times. He's got a whiff rate of 56% on those pitches, and it has just been brutal. The expected numbers are bad too. The expected slugging percentage is just really, really low on that. The expected slugging percentage is 158. The expected batting average is 108 in those 26 plate appearances on off-speed stuff. He's a smart player. He will eventually figure things out, but right now it has been really, really rough. Last year, he was okay against changeups. I mean, he hit 244 against them and slugged 537 against them. The expected numbers were significantly lower. The expected batting average was 150. The expected slugging was below 300. So maybe a little bit lucky in those. He struck out, 30% of the time last year, and this year against changeups, he's striking out 63% of the time. And David Festa has a good changeup, and he absolutely ate him up yesterday. I'm not worried about him in terms of the long term, but it's just been a really rough 6-week stretch. Maybe playing center field is adding to that. I don't really think so. I think he's just in a bad way, and I think he is a smart hitter. He is a talented hitter. Eventually, he will get through this. He will figure out how to hit changeups, and then pitchers will have to adjust. Speaking of pitchers adjusting, that is something Kumar Rocker did a little bit of in his first start back in AAA. One of the things that when I look at the pitch distribution, he went 4 innings, allowed 1 run, struck out a few. But the thing that I talked about on, I believe it was yesterday's show, maybe it was Tuesday's show, I've lost track of what day it is of the week. That is a typical thing for me. But I talked about Rocker and the 3 different versions of his breaking ball. And if he could just trust all 3 of them in a given start, it would make him a significantly more effective pitcher. Because what he's done in the past is just kind of pick one version of that breaking ball, either the cutter, slider, or curveball version, and just kind of stick with it. If he throws one of those that he doesn't have a feel for, or he throws a bad pitch, he kind of moved away from that. He threw 70 pitches in his last start. I didn't love that he threw the four-seam fastball the most out of any of those pitches. 32 four-seam fastballs. It's not a good pitch. You should stay away from it. The sinker he threw 13 times. It was fine. But what I was really encouraged is that he threw all 3 versions of that breaking ball. He threw 11 cutters. He threw 6 sliders. He threw 4 curveballs. He could have mixed it a little bit more evenly, but he used all 3. And normally he'll use one and he'll throw a second version of it. I don't think he's thrown all 3, or at least multiple times he's thrown all 3 versions of that breaking ball in a single start. I don't know that I've ever seen it, because I know that I haven't seen it, because he didn't do it in his last start. And that was the first time he threw the cutter more than once in a major league game. So this is a step forward. Ideally, you get to be more comfortable with all those versions. But if you have legitimately 6 pitches, and 6 pitches with, some real stuff, I mean, there's a bunch of different ways to be effective. You can have just the elite stuff. You can have a lot of different versions of pitches, guys that are, more crafty, guys like Seth Lugo, who have, Seth Lugo has, I believe, 9 or 10 different pitches. And the stuff, just the movement and the, pure grade on those pitches, none of them are particularly elite, but using all of them effectively makes him a complete pitcher. Same thing with Max Fried. He's a guy who has incredible command and a bunch of different pitches. But if you've got elite stuff and a bunch of different versions of it, heck, even if he just kind of abandoned the four-seam fastball, I don't think he should abandon it completely. But if he could throw all 3 versions of that cutter, that slider, that curveball, all 3 of those are 70 to 80 grade pitches. Then you just throw in the sinker, the four-seam fastball, and the changeup just enough to confuse guys. And that is a truly elite pitcher. But just working to get the feel and the trust for the game plans, for what the pitching coaching staff has done, and to do something completely differently than he's been doing to this point, which what he's been doing has been successful until this point, until he faced elite big leaguers who are very, very good. But this is a step in the right direction. Ideally, you take that fastball, that four-seam fastball, you kind of just save it for when you need it to throw people off of the sinker and the cutter and the slider, the curveball, and the good pitches. And you don't use that as your primary pitch, because those 3 breaking balls are all exceptional. And if he can start to wield all 3 and trust those game plans and trust that doing something new is going to lead to even more success, then the sky is the freaking limit for Kumar Rocker. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.